This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, now, thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Sports Podcast. I am your brand new host, Tate. That's right. You may know me from the GSMC MMA Podcast. I've also filled in on this show and many other shows. I will be your host for this fantastic show going forward. And I truly hope you like what we have in store for you here. Okay, today we got a pretty big full lineup today. We're going to be talking about that Raptors-Bucks game. We're going to talk about the NBA draft lottery with a little bit of Zion. We're going to touch on a little bit more about the Western Conference Finals with the game tonight with Portland going against Golden State. We'll touch on a little bit more about the draft and the Celtics, and we'll see what else we can get into. So, to start off our day, we're going to talk about that game last night in which the Raptors lost 100-108. Milwaukee won at home, which was kind of expected at the beginning of this series that Milwaukee would be the favorite going into this. But if you would have told me before this game ever started, if you'd have told me that Kawhi Leonard was going to have 30 points, Kyle Lowry was going to have 30 points, Milwaukee was going to be down at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and Giannis would only score one bucket in the fourth quarter, I would have bet my paycheck. There is no way possible that the Raptors were going to lose this game. But when you look at this game, it was quite impressive how things went down. Milwaukee, who came in this game the first three quarters, I would say, they came in a little rusty, considering they had been off for such a long time after that Celtics series. That they were rusty, and I felt like the Raptors came and had a great chance to go up 1-0, and this is why Milwaukee is possibly the best team in basketball. It's because they're so deep. You can have an off day by Kawhi Leonard. You can have that game where they may not be 100%, but when you have a team where you can get Brook Lopez to come in and make up the slack for Giannis, then you have a situation. Now, when I look at the Raptors, I now think the Raptors are in trouble. I thought they put up a great game. Like I said, Kyle Lowry put up a great game. When you look around and you say Kawhi Leonard with 31 points, 61 points between the two of them. This was the game that they had that they could have made. To go up 1-0 in this series was super important. You're not going to have a situation where Milwaukee's going to go 3 quarters and be flat and not quite be themselves. they kind of worked their way back into the game. As they rolled into the fourth quarter, you could see how they were starting to loosen up. And while Giannis was on the bench, they were heating up. Giannis, they didn't need the Giannis to come in and take over the game and dominate. And that's a big factor. When you can have a situation where your star guy, the guy that's supposed to carry you in the finals, in the Eastern Conference Finals, and he doesn't have to have his best game. Matter of fact, he can have an off night and you still win game one, then you're in good shape. The Raptors, on the other hand, game two, they're not going to get a same situation where they're going to give away three quarters. So from this point forward, the Raptors are going to have to put out a Herculean effort. And so far, when you look at the playoffs, Kawhi has been up for the chase and the challenge of going out and putting up 40 every night. But Kyle Lowry, this is the first sighting we've had of Kyle Lowry. And he's going to have to do that in order just for them not to get blown out. You're going to need that every night for him. When I look at this series, and you ask me, Tate, after looking at game one, what do you look at this series? And I look at this series as a 5-1 series. I got them losing the game two, possibly winning game three, losing four, and finishing it off from there. It just does not look like, because Milwaukee's just going to get better and stronger. Milwaukee is just too deep. When you have a bench like Milwaukee, where they can keep bringing bodies after body out on the floor, and Giannis, which there's no answer for, can rest and come out strong. You're not going to be able to put Kawhi on Giannis, not for a whole game, maybe for a quarter. But if you put Kawhi full time on Giannis, you will suffer that way, because Kawhi will have to work too hard to slow Giannis down, which means he's gonna suffer on the offensive side of things. So with that being said, when you look at this and you look at this series, I already look at this thing as it's all but done. And I know that sounds crazy, because I think this is going to be a very competitive series. I also look at this as the team most likely to give Milwaukee a really tough run here. When I look at it and I say, if Milwaukee makes it to the finals and you got Golden State and they don't have KD, I really do think, matter of fact, I would look at it and I would say Milwaukee from this point forward should be the favorites. If you don't have Kevin Durant on Golden State, I don't see anyone stopping Milwaukee, and it starts with the Raptors. The only thing I'm hoping for with the Raptors right now is they cannot handle a sweep. If they get swept again, which is a real possibility, because Milwaukee is really that good and they have blown a great opportunity. And I know the saying is the playoff series doesn't start until someone wins on the other guy's court. Well, I'm going to say this. When you have a game handed to you and you're favored to lose, you're the underdog, and the game is put there for you to win, and you blow it, and you don't close the deal, then that's a situation where now you're looking at a Milwaukee team who's rested, who's confident, and will go into Toronto most likely up 2-0. And there's the ghost of finals playoff pass starts to creep into the Raptors' head. Visions of LeBron James sweeping them will come back to haunt them. With that, we're going to go take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that NBA draft lottery. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and we're back. We're just was talking about that Raptors Bucks game in which Milwaukee won 108-100. But something that also went down on that same day was the NBA draft lottery, and I'm going to tell you what, that did not disappoint. You have a situation where for the last few years, the big problem has been the process. This whole change with the NBA draft lottery comes from the process. And so this year was the year that they were going to make a change so that teams that tanked would not have an unfair advantage. And guess what? The NBA delivered. I sat there watching the draft lottery as in, okay, because of what I do for a living, it is my requirement to watch this thing. But after one, pretty much, I could wait and figure out who gets the first pick. I wasn't excited about it because I had forgotten about the fact that they had changed the percentages. And all you heard about leading up to this was how Zion was going to be going to New York, how Zion was going to be a Cavalier or Phoenix Suns or a Chicago Bulls. And that was the only teams talked about. And when you look at the percentages and you say, overwhelmingly, the odds were against the Knicks, but it made it, when you watch ESPN or Fox Sports or any other sports programs, it made it like the Knicks had a 95 to 98% chance of getting Zion. Cleveland had more of like a 75 to 80% chance. But anybody else, they had no chance. And when you look around and you say that New Orleans got number one, well, who was talking about New Orleans? No one. No one was talking about New Orleans. So if you didn't know any better, you would say New Orleans was not even in the lottery. Memphis was not even in the lottery. The Lakers, not in the lottery. But when I'm watching this thing and I'm watching it go down, and it goes Washington, then Atlanta, then Chicago gets their pick, Phoenix. And then all of a sudden, I realize, wait a minute. They show the Lakers as a top 4 pick. And I'm like, what? And then I went crazy, like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Zion's gonna end up with LeBron James, and then they kept on, and then Phoenix went, and then Cleveland went, and then when you saw that the Final Four was New Orleans, Memphis, New York, and Los Angeles, the first thing I was thinking is, wow, once again, LeBron and Zion. But when you listen to all the other shows, you're thinking, okay. When they called the Lakers up next, then you're like, okay, Zion's going to the Knicks. And then the Knicks were called. And my head, my head was just buzzing. I'm like, maybe the two best teams in the lottery ends up with the two best players in the lottery. When you look around and you see, and then they announce Memphis, and then you say New Orleans, and I'm like, there's no way it can be New Orleans. Even after they called New Orleans, I'm trying to wrap my head around what just happened. And when you think about it, the funniest thing about this whole situation is the fact that when you think about this whole NBA season and what happened over the NBA season, you look around and you say, the Lakers was one of the top seeds in the Western Conference. The Lakers were rolling. LeBron pops his groin. LeBron's out. The Lakers go all out to try to get Anthony Davis. The minute the Lakers try to go all out to get Anthony Davis, this derails both franchises. The Lakers take a nosedive, and their season is a disaster from this point forward. Pretty much even the offseason has been an absolute disaster. New Orleans makes the decision that they can no longer play Anthony Davis but 15, 20 minutes a game, and that's when they start their tanking process. And so this whole trade situation actually ends up making the two teams that got the most derailed come out on top. The Lakers, who were expected to get a 11th pick, gets a number 4 pick. And despite what everyone says, there's some players available that having the 4 pick is so crucial. Then you look around and you look at this and you say New Orleans is going to have Zion. Memphis has the number 2 pick. And the Knicks are heartbroken. The Knicks fans are heartbroken. But now that there's been a day to go around and you think about it, there's more that this is actually could be a good thing. I see a situation where a lot of fans were hoping that Anthony Davis goes to New York. And I'm going to tell you when we come back why I still think it will happen, why I still think it's a good idea, and how I think it really benefits the New Orleans Pelicans and the New York Knicks to make sure this trade actually goes through. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few seconds or a minute.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
right, we're back. And we were just talking about that NBA draft lottery. And we were talking about how New Orleans and New York's fortune, how a lot of the New York fans looked at not getting Zion as a disaster, and how I say this could be the blessing in disguise that no one was expecting. And here is where I come from with this. And you might have heard this earlier today because I got a phone call from one of the guys here in the office because I was telling them about this. And I got a call from one of the guys, and they were saying, dude, Colin Cowherd is kind of saying the exact same thing you were saying last night. And I didn't watch the show, but I'm going to give you my take. And I hear that Cowherd's take is very similar to mine. And that is this. When you look at the fact that Zion is now going to be a New Orleans Pelican, the first thing you think about is, oh, they got Anthony Davis and Zion. No, they don't. Zion's agent has already made it clear that they still want to leave. I know that the front office is still trying to figure out a way to keep Anthony Davis, but when you have a situation where you've been there for 8-9 years and you're just done, you just want to be gone, that's where Anthony Davis is at. He's at that point where he's been in a relationship, in a bad relationship. He hasn't been happy, and it doesn't matter what the significant other does. If she changes up her hair, if she goes out and starts going to the gym, it's too late. You cannot put that genie back in the bottle. It is gone. And Anthony Davis is gone. And this is where I think the Knicks come in play. Everyone is looking at the Lakers and saying, with that number 4 pick, you package it up with a Kyle Kuzma or Ball or one of the other talented players that they have, and you go out and get Anthony Davis. Well, that's just not going to happen because the New Orleans Pelicans has pretty much said behind the scenes they want to work with anyone but the Lakers. The one franchise they do not have any interest in sending Anthony Davis to is the Lakers, and they will cut their nose off to spite their face because that is the best decision for them, but it's not going to happen. It's already been said they are not trading with the Lakers. So with that said, what is the best move for the New Orleans Pelicans in trading Anthony Davis? The Celtics? Well, the Celtics' dream has gotten blown up. And when you look at the Celtics and you say, yeah, they have all these draft picks and there's so much that they can do with these draft picks. Well, not so fast anymore. This NBA draft lottery has changed it all. Before this draft, they were looking around and the Celtics got so unlucky. When you hear that, I'm going to say it again. The Boston Celtics got incredibly unlucky. When you look at, they had the Memphis pick, which was top 8 protected. And that went number 2. So Memphis got their pick. The Sacramento pick, which they were really hoping to be a 2, 3, or 4 pick, it went 11. So all these great picks that the Celtics thought they were going to have, which the Celtics thought they would have a minimum of 2 to 3 top 5, top 7 picks, ended up with 3 top 14 picks. all of them right around that 11, 12, 13, 14 pick, which they're not that valuable. All those draft picks that the Celtics have are no longer valuable, and I personally think they are now officially out of the Anthony Davis sweepstakes because they would have to give up way too much. Kyrie is now a free agent, so that would mean you'd have to give up Tatum, maybe someone else, just to get Anthony Davis, which would pretty much gut the team. That is not going to happen. Because of the Celtics' bad luck, and when you think of a Celtic, you think of good luck, not this time. So, where is the best landing place for Anthony Davis? I say the New York Knicks. And as I've said before, the reason why I say the Knicks is because if you package it up and you send Anthony Davis to the Knicks and you get R.J. Barrett and a couple other solid players, maybe you get into a 3-team trade and now you got Zion, you got R.J. Barrett, and I'm going to go talk to the Hawks or the Bulls or someone like that to try to get a 3-team trade going in there, because I'm going to go out and get R.J. Barrett and Kareem Reddish. And the reason why I'm going to go out and try to get R.J. Barrett and Kareem Reddish is because I want to put together a situation in New Orleans where Zion is super comfortable. I want him playing with the guys that he's been playing with the last year, guys that he feels relaxed with, because if you have a situation where Zion is happy, then you can keep Zion long term, because Zion is not going to be like LeBron James or some of the other rookies where that first year, the first few years, they're on their rookie deal and they kind of have no choice but to sign that second contract with the team that drafted them, because of that's when they get their first real taste of NBA money. Zion won't have that problem. Zion's going to get one of the biggest shoe contracts in the history of basketball right out the gate. So he's going to get that 10, 15 million a year, if not 20 million a year off the top. He's going to be one of the highest paid players in basketball right before he ever takes a tip, just from endorsement money. He's going to get that 10, 15, 20 million dollars a year. So the big worry is getting Zion and making sure you have him in a situation where he can be successful but happy. And the best way to make him happy is to get his buddies there. R.J. Barrett, super talented guy. It's guaranteed to get him if you trade Anthony Davis there. Kareem Reddish, you can get for very little will it take to get Kareem Reddish. So you have 3 of his buddies there. You put together a situation where you have the staff around that can develop Kareem Reddish and R.J. Barrett and develop Zion to turn them into superstars. You have the situation where you're building around your 3 young pieces that you bring in this year, so that you are looking long term at a 10, 12 year relationship with your star Zion and your other star RJ Barrett, and who knows how Kareem Reddish has a lot of upside. He could develop into a very talented guy. So you literally could have 3 Duke players playing in New Orleans, and I think that would make Zion absolutely happy. And once you get to New Orleans, you never hear about someone not really being happy in New Orleans, let alone a situation where you have your friends there, You have an organization that is not only do you have your friends there, but have designed a team to make you and your friends go and perform at their absolute best. That makes a happy Zion, which then makes New Orleans a real player. In the past, you have a situation where they weren't happy with the training staff and the medical staff, the coaching staff. They got a top flight general manager. They went out and got a top flight medical group. They're no longer sharing medical with the New Orleans Saints. They have a situation where if you can get Zion happy, you can keep Zion. And that's why I think it is the best situation, and how I think they can keep him is by trading Anthony Davis to the Knicks. The last thing you want to do is keep Anthony Davis there for a whole year or until February, where you have this disgruntled situation and your star looks at your first experience of being in New Orleans is a very big, disastrous situation where Anthony Davis wants out. He doesn't want to play. You don't want to play him because you're worried about him being injured, and you're trying to develop your superstar, Zion Williams. That's the reason why. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple other things. We're going to talk about the game tonight where we have Golden State, and they're going to be meeting it with Portland. And we're going to talk about that game, the first game one, about that and how Portland kind of phoned it in. And I don't look at it as a bad thing. I have a different take than everyone else does when it comes to the Golden State Portland game one. We'll talk about that in just a few seconds. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Right, we're back. We just got to talk about Zion and the Pelicans and the draft and what I think would be the best move for Anthony Davis to actually, the Pelicans to trade with the Knicks, send Anthony Davis to the Knicks because it's good for business. And speaking of good for business, it made me think about that game one in Western Conference Finals between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Golden State Warriors. And when you look around, you have a lot of people talking about how poor Portland played and how pretty much the series is over and how they had such a horrible, horrible game plan and how great Golden State is and how they don't need Kevin Durant. And I'm going to tell you that's not so true. When you look at this game and you watch game one and how they played, Portland was just coming off of a brutal 7-game series with Denver. Playing game 7 in Denver, high altitude, rough, tough game. So flying in and immediately playing possibly one of the greatest teams of all time. Game 1, a game that Golden State rarely ever loses a game 1. So you look at that, and knowing this situation that Golden State doesn't normally lose a game 1, your guys are tired. They're beat down. They've had to fly to Golden State after being in altitude, and there's just a low energy. And this is why I feel like they came in with a business decision. The players didn't play hard. They played flat. And to go even further to show that I feel like it was a business decision, Portland did not practice the day of or the day before. And right before the game, they didn't even do shoot-around. You always practice. You always have shoot-arounds before the game. Portland didn't do that. And the reason why they didn't do that is strictly a business decision. Portland knew their guys were beat up and tired. Portland knew that it would take everything out of them to put their guys in a situation to just be competitive in this game. Portland can come out and look fantastic in this game and put everything on the line and play their butts off, and in the end still lose game 1 because the statistics show everyone loses game 1 against Golden State. So by putting in a situation where, yes, you gave Steph Curry a lot of open looks. You weren't trapping like Houston did. You were dropping your bigs back. The reason why they didn't trap game 1 is it takes a lot of energy to consistently keep trapping all night long for 4 quarters. That's just not going to work. That team just did not have the energy. Tonight's game, you're going to see a very different Portland Trailblazer team. You're not going to see that sleepy team that played game 1. You're going to see a very tough, scrappy team who is ready to give Golden State everything they want. And when you talk about, there's a lot of people are saying, hey, this proves Golden State never needed Kevin Durant. Well, tonight's going to prove why, in my opinion, why Kevin Durant is so important. Because you are going to see now a team ready, not a team ready to rest after a long trip from being in high altitude, coming to a new city. Now you have a team focused on the task at hand, which is Golden State. I think it was a good business decision. I think they're going to come back and fight incredibly hard. Do not be surprised if Portland does not take game 2. But whether they take game 2 or not, you are going to see a very different Portland game. I am super excited about seeing what happens. I personally, I know it sounds crazy, I got Portland winning game 2, which means we now have a series. So, with that game going to be in a couple hours, we will see how my prediction goes. With that last little tidbit, once again, I am Tate. I am your new host for the GSMC Sports Podcast and the GSMC Basketball Podcast. So I look forward to entertaining you guys and getting to know you guys. We're gonna do some new things, kind of shake it up. We're gonna try to get more audience involved. We're gonna get a number in here in which the audience can actually call in, and we truly, when we launch the new phone number to have people come in and call in, I am truly looking forward to talking with the audience and hearing what they have to say. So with that, enjoy the games tonight. And we will be back on tomorrow to turn out to see how my prediction goes with Portland winning. To all, have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.